Well, this topic is not on the topic of foreskin regeneration, but instead the topic of foreskin replacement. I know that's the goal, very highfalutin goal. How to homemaker, do-it-yourself version to replace your foreskin, that's nice. Or regenerate your foreskin, and instead of reaching the goal, I ended up succeeding at doing something else in the course of trying to do that. I've figured out how to replace the foreskin, and it is so fully functional, almost fully functional. Can't pee with it on, can't poop with it on, can't take a bath with it on, but I can have sex with it on, provided it's masturbatory sex with a nice pillow, something cloth-oriented, because the cap serving as the replacement for the foreskin is made out of cloth. So rubbing cloth against cloth, there's nothing for the two to grip on each other, and they slip very nicely past each other. And due to the lotion that I'm using on my skin, on the head of the penis, being based on beeswax, the cloth cap sticks to the head of my penis, not so much to the shaft, but to the head, and doesn't budge. Doesn't budge at all. So, effectively, it's the same as having sex with a foreskin. You're on. Except that it doesn't slip. Foreskin is lubricated and it's attached to yourself, and so it slips. This one is lubricated of a sort, but glued in a sense. Removable, but glued, because of the beeswax, and so it doesn't slip. Moisturizes, keeps the head moist, keeps it protected from abrasion, even during sex, because the only rubbing that occurs to the top half of the penis is more like a tickle. And isn't that the way it is inside a vagina, Nice and gooey, wet, and you literally don't feel anything, By comparison to having to do it yourself with a hand or something, you don't feel anything. And we're talking about bare, circumcised penis. This is brutal, living with a circumcised penis. I can recall the days when I was a kid, teenager, in which I bloodied the upholstery of some bench in my room, upholstered bench, because I was rubbing on it so much, so hard. That's what happens when you don't have a foreskin. Well, this is the epitome now of non-brutality towards the self, because literally I don't feel anything. And so it becomes like an exercise, like, what do they call it, aerobic? It becomes like an aerobic exercise, and eventually, now I feel something, and it's not rubbing that I feel, it's tickling. Because the rubbing is so minor that, and it takes a little longer to reach orgasm, but there's no brutality, no blood, no roughing up of the penis at all. The only caveat is I realized that with this attachment method of attaching a piece of cloth, a cloth cap, long enough slightly to overhang beyond the corona, slightly below it. What was I going to say? That there is a risk in that compression occurs. Not as bad as a condom, but some. So I'm considering the use of a cotton cap from Picante, and I cut these caps from the sheath of a Picante jockstrap underwear, Pikante, Picante. I instead of using a sheath from an underwear that's the right size for me, fitted correctly, now I'm trying one size too large, because part of the problem is compression. The penis gets erect while you sleep at night, and that means the top half of your penis undergoes at least mild compression, not as bad as a condom will do, all the time, even when you're not erect, because a condom wasn't made to be worn all the time. So with one size larger than fitted size, maybe the chance for compression or the extent of compression won't be as great. And yet it should still stick, because I notice that even when I wear a size, the right size fitted, in time it stretches out and it becomes loose. But now I changed because I had to rinse out the one that got semen in it. And I should have rinsed it out anyway because it had urine stains at that point. Been wearing it so long. But I never wash it because I don't want to get rid of the lotion buildup on the underside, because every time I bathe afterwards I put on a new coating of lotion and that builds up on the underside of the cotton cap. So this time I took the used one and I rinsed it out in cold water and turned it inside out to dry. And so I had to use a new one, and when I used a new one, same size as my body, I noticed how tiny it was and hard to get into. And I could see how much it was compressing my penis when my penis was erect, so I thought, this doesn't look good. So why don't I use the cap from the one size larger than normal fitting, so that it's loose. And it doesn't matter, I think. It's held on so far very nicely. The only time, even with, doesn't matter what size, when it might slip off a little, not all the way, is during a walk, a long walk, or a jog, and you're wearing clothes, and, unlike me, even if I wear clothes around in here, there's nowhere to walk. I mean, between my bed and the bathroom is like, 2 steps, so it's not the same. But a long walk for an hour or more, or a jog, it might come off a little, but not all the way. And so rather than let that happen, I wear another sheath on top. Except I'm running out of sheaths because I keep cutting up all my underwears. Or, if I don't wear another sheath, I can wear a G-string. Oh, I got plenty of those. Or even a jockstrap cup. That's right, the cup of a jockstrap, a normal jockstrap, not this kind, not the picante kind, to help hold everything in place. Something along those lines. A cupping action that will help create a little security. Security! Security! But it's amazing. So now I used a pillow to masturbate in this morning, and I was amazed the advantage, because now my penis could just slip through that pillow and no abrasion whatsoever. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. And so it's sex without friction, which is what it was supposed to be at birth. That's our birthright. And they took it away from us. And now I just figured out how to put it back. So it's not foreskin regeneration, but it's the next best thing. And it's not hard. You don't need a medical degree. In fact, you don't need as fancy a recipe as I used, because I'm trying to regenerate, so I add in salt and the powder off the electrodes of a colloidal silver generator, which can easily be rubbed off with a dry, clean, brand new toothbrush. It's never been used for anything else, and you're not going to use it for anything else, and so I bagged it in a little sandwich baggie to protect it, wrapped it up with a rubber band, so I use only that toothbrush to brush off the black, sooty-colored looking colloidal silver dust powder off my silver plate electrodes of my colloidal silver generator into whatever I want to put it into. Or I use the beeswax method to take it out of colloidal silver, murky colloidal silver. Either way, put it into a lotion made of beeswax and oil, liquid vegetable oil. Melt down the beeswax, stir the mixture with a metallic butter knife while it cools. Heat it up in a crock pot and then cool it in a bath of water. This is a little mug, a ceramic mug I've melted it in. And I've got another video I showed myself doing this, and you just constantly stir until it stiffens up, and now you got yourself a lotion, because beeswax is antibacterial all by itself, and it should help prevent the formation of yeast, which is your only problem. It'll itch. Start to itch. And why is this itching? But it shouldn't happen. But I add silver powder and salt because I want to stimulate regeneration. And maybe over the long term, 10 years, maybe something will happen. Who knows? Without a wound to speed things up, who knows? But the sidebar is I have a replacement of a sexually functional foreskin replacement. So it's not a fully functional, but it's a sexually functional foreskin replacement. And that is so cool. It's like the first time I had sex inside a vagina, it was like, wow. What have I been missing all my life? So it was quite a shock. No wonder people go for heterosexual sex. No wonder. Duh. I don't know. What do I know? So it's practically functionally the same. Literally. You don't feel anything until all of a sudden, all of a sudden I'm tingling. Look at that. Because you don't feel anything. I'm going through the motion. I don't feel anything. Oh, finally I feel. Oh, wow. Yeah, I feel something. But it's not rubbing that you feel. Because the action of rub is so minor. It's not there to be noticeable. But it's there, or else it wouldn't work. It's more like a tickle. And isn't that nice? It's the way sex was supposed to be. A tickle. And then if you keep that up, something tingly will happen. But otherwise, it's just a tickle. Not a, oh my God, what did you do? You're bleeding all over. Well, what do you want? I'm circumcised. And this you call good? No. So you call brutal is what you call. The doctor didn't do this to me. I did it to myself. Yeah, but the doctor set you up. It's a setup. Talk about a conspiracy to brutalize yourself. Oh, you don't have a woman. See, it was supposed to discourage masturbation. Never discouraged me. All it did was encourage brutalization, self-applied, self-initiated, so I could blame myself. Oh, and then you see, that's it. Where does the Jewish complex come from? That neurotic guilt complex, self-brutalization. There you go. Woody Allen, we figured it out. If this country, if circumcision was not so prominent in this country, Woody Allen would not have risen to the top of the charts when he did, when he in his day, when he was so popular in his day. He even did a movie about, you don't make funny movies anymore. Because he had a run there. He was pretty funny. Because the whole country was circumcised, Jew and non-Jew alike. You know, in the 50s, due to the Korean War, it became extremely popular. All the GIs who were circumcised over there came back and wanted the same for their sons. Not too hard to accommodate you, says the doctor. And whoosh, off the foreskin comes. It was so popular, you'd have to be an alien from another planet not to be circumcised. And we had a kid at Jewish summer camp who was not circumcised, and the camp counselor was so impressed, he said, show me, I got to see. The guy wasn't gay, he was just, he couldn't believe it. And he showed us, he had a foreskin. Oh my God. So, he's quite the talk of the cabin. No. We didn't know what we were missing. We hadn't the slightest idea. The slightest hint. Wasn't even there. So, this works out because it stays on all the time. I can sleep in it. It never comes off unless I take it off. Except for long walks or a jog. It might come off partially. But otherwise, there's no reason for it to come off. It's impossible. It ain't gonna happen. And it's funnily enough, I was watching a movie the other night, and I was wondering, why am I watching this movie? It's a woman's movie. What women want? What women want? With Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. And, he's waxing his thighs, to find out a woman's point of view. Because it had Logan Lerman in it as a child actor, a very, very short scene. Oh, is that why? No, that explains it. I had a Logan Lerman run there for a while. When I was up there in the Cascades of Washington State, I had to see every movie that Logan Lerman was in, except for the ugly ones, the violent ones that came much later. But all the other ones, like, oh, I gotta see it, I gotta see him in a movie. But Mel Gibson is waxing his shins right there on camera, going, ah! What woman would be crazy enough to do this? Well, this is what we can do to adhere a penis wrap sheath to the head of our penis, and magically it adheres to the mucosal membrane head glands like magic. But not to the porous, tannable shaft skin below the corona, below the scar line. It doesn't stick to that at all. But it'll stick to the head and drape over beyond it, below it. So that's why I don't make up too much longer than that, but a little bit longer, to drape beyond it a little. And it works pretty good. It's just loose. Hanging over the shaft skin. So, if it cinches up a little bit from time to time, you just pull it down a little, from time to time. But it stays on the head. Stays adhered like glue. Like a charm. When I pull it off to pee, it tugs on my penis before it finally rips off. Now there's a seam, and so I turn the thing inside out, so the seam is on the outside, and so when I grab the seam to pull it off, it tugs on the penis before it rips off. And there's no pain or anything. It just, it adheres like glue. It's a beeswax oil mixture, though. So you can change the adherence factor by how much oil you mix in with the beeswax when you melt the beeswax. If you just use straight beeswax, first of all, it'll be impossible to put on the head of your penis. Because I have to rub this lotion on after showering. And it's mildly pleasant, using outward stroking motion. Outward strokes, grabbing the penis with. I lotion up 3 fingers, my middle finger, my index finger, and my thumb, and by drawing it outwards all along the length of the upper length of the penis, I can massage the lotion in, because it's sticky, so it pulls on the penis. But you can rub it in, and then using one set of fingers to pull the one edge of the cap downward, use the finger of your other hand to push the side of the penis into it, because it's hard to get in, and so it helps if it's a little on the loose side. It makes it easier, because it's sticky. Once you've been doing it, especially building up layer upon layer of lotion underneath, which is what you want to do, then it sticks even more readily, and so it gets, a little difficult until it starts to stretch out and get loose and baggy, and it's easier to put on. But it adheres to the glands of the penis like a charm. It really does, and that's probably why lip balm works so well, because it's made to be slightly waxy and adheres to the mucosal membrane of the lips. So this is the same thing. So you could, if you wanted to, you could probably use lipstick. If you were in a pinch, grab. If you've got a girlfriend or your mom, go in there and grab the lipstick and use that. Put that on the head of your penis. If it's non-toxic lipstick, maybe. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be using toxic lipstick anyway. Edible lipstick, then yeah, I think I would venture personally. But in a pinch, if you're in an emergency, then you use whatever you got, because it's the right stickiness and the right oiliness. See, because I think they're basically doing the same thing as what I'm doing. So you could almost call what I'm doing kind of a lip balm, a chapstick. You could use chapstick in a pinch. You could probably use chapstick and rub that over the head of your penis, and then apply a cotton cap, which you can make with a sewing machine. If you really wanted to, make a paper pattern for your penis, and then size maybe. My thumb is a little too narrow as an example. It would have to be bigger than your thumb, wider than your thumb. maybe the width of the thumb and one finger, make it that wide to fit over that. I'm guessing. But it really works. It works like a charm, and it's beautiful sex. Just grab a pillow or bunch up your bedding, or a towel. A terry towel might be a little rough. Something more smoother, probably, because it's just a tickle. That's all you're going for, is a tickle. You're not going for brutality anymore. So this reverses what the doctor did to us. It reverses it without having to regenerate a foreskin. A condom won't. Well, a condom will do the same thing, in a sense, except it offers a tremendous amount of compression, which deforms the penis, because a penis is a sponge. It's a spongy, structured material, filled with capillaries that fill up with blood, but all the same, it's a sponge. So if we had to liken it to, what's the closest analogy in the real world? A closed cell sponge, as opposed to an open cell sponge, which is what we use on the kitchen counter to wash our dishes, is open cell, because you squeeze it under running water and you let it expand and it draws in the water because it's open cells. If it were closed cell, it would be like the foam mat you use to roll out and lay down on when you go camping and sleep on top of. That's closed cell, that mat. Most of them are, unless it's inflatable. But if it's just plain foam, it's usually closed cell, which means it's very non-compressible. You can't compress it very readily. The difference being that it's really like a cross between the two. It's closed cell, but it's really more like open cell in the sense that there are tiny little water balloons in there filled with liquid, blood, and they can expand or contract. No, not contract. They can expand or release, and thus deflate back to their normal small size. And under the action of expansion, you get all these little water balloons expanded, and sure, yeah, you get an erection, because it's partly closed cell. Something like that. Partly closed, partly open. But it's a sponge, and like a sponge, it can deform. And so it's incumbent to use a sheath that does not offer compression most of the time or all the time, so that when you have an erection, it doesn't compress at the very least, and certainly doesn't offer compression when it's limp, when the penis is limp, such as a condom will do. And that's what you don't want, because over time, now you'll get deformity of the penis. And very strange. Why would you want that? So, with those caveats in mind, now I will hand you over to my other cameraman. Namely, I will stop this video and restart it with the camera turned around so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so this is what we're talking about. Get the balls out of the way. So there's the seam, and there you can see how oversized it is below the corona, because it's drawing together and wrinkling up. And over the head, it adheres like crazy. Now this is the looser size, so I don't know how well this will perform during sex, as opposed to the correct size. This is one size too large. Okay, now let's show you. But it sticks. But now let's show you. This is the lotion, and it's gray because of the silver in there. Tremendous amount of silver powder, nano-sized silver. There's the beeswax, there's the salt. You can almost see the salt granules embedded in the lotion there. And the oil, the liquid oil. Grapeseed canola soy is the mixture I'm using from the market. And this is the cap. This is one size too large. I haven't used it yet. But the one that I have used that's drying is this one. And this is turned inside out, so you don't see the seam. And this is the side with the lotion on it. Now I've rinsed it out into water, and I don't feel the lotion at all. So I may have rinsed out all of the lotion. So it'll have to build up another layer all over again. But it's clean since I rinsed it, so there's no semen, residual semen left over, no pee stain, all that's gone now. And it's actually fully dried. It's a little bit, it's got some lotion in it, very little. So rinsing it out took away a lot of the lotion. So anyway, you put it on each time, you put the lotion on your penis each time you put the cap on, and so it's able to build up a very functional layer of lotion. And even the first time is good enough for it to stick somewhat, so I'm not too concerned. Anyway, I thought I'd show you, and then why don't I show you how I make it. So these are the electrode plates that I use for making my colloidal silver, and you can see how it's damaged and coming apart because of all the degradation to the silver electrode. And of course that's what you want. You're trying to destroy your electrodes to create nano-sized particles of silver in solution. And one way to create a separation is to create a silver solution inside one container that you pour into another, in which you've attached these sticks of beeswax, dry sticks, to the bottom of a dry glass beaker in this case, or pitcher. And then you put your magnetic stir bar in the center, and you swirl the murky silver, colloidal silver water around for several hours, maybe a few days, and then it coats all the sides. Well, this was from making colloidal silver in here. It plated the inside of the glass, but it coats the exterior sides, as you can see, of the beeswax. It sticks there, and then you can use a potato peeler to shave it off. And then you can melt that and add your, sorry, it's shaking. There you go. You can shave it off with a potato peeler and then add oil in a mug in a crockery pot to melt it. But when you melt it in the crock pot, make sure you keep an eye on it, because it can reach flash point, and if it should start a fire, it's very hard to put out. So keep an eye on it. All you have to do is melt it. You're not trying to heat it up to a certain temperature beyond that, just enough for it to melt. And when it melts, you can mix it. So these are the shavings that I've got collected here, these silver embedded beeswax shavings. Or you can take a toothbrush, where is it? A toothbrush, and use that to brush off the electrodes to get at least some particles of silver. And in that way, you can add powdered silver to your lotion that you're making in your mug that you're heating up. And I added salt, because salt is a tool of debridement, so it helps to debride the skin. Don't put salt in a wound. No, that's what you want to put in a wound, to help it regenerate, because you don't want it to heal merely. Because if it heals merely, it'll close. It'll seek to its first impulse is to close itself. And you don't want to do that. You want to keep it open and keep it aggravated. And salt is a very natural method, according to Dr. Becker in his book, The Body Electric. So that's in there. And you're rubbing that into the head of your penis, basically. Little salt granules and the powdered silver, along with the beeswax and liquid vegetable oil. And then you put on your cap, and I only got one hand here, so I can't show you what I described, but you grab one side with two of your fingers, and then using your other finger of the other hand, you shove the side of your penis down in against that. So it's a sliding action. You're pulling the cloth out. You're pulling the cloth out and shoving the penis in with your two hands. And you go around the sides of the penis to do that. You keep doing that until the penis is fully lodged in there all the way, in a nice even manner, so you don't get any bunching of the cloth, nor any bunching of the penis itself. And so the only caveat is that I've noticed that the seam, when you sleep at night, you'll get a seam mark on the head of your penis due to compression, if you're lying in your belly, due to compression against the seam compressed against the head of the penis. But it's no different than a compression mark from your clothing, your waistband, your pajama waistband, It's no different. Or socks, if you wear socks, right? You'll get a compression marks on your leg, on your ankle.
So I just thought I'd show you that.